This video is on example 2 from lesson 4 in the grade 7 module 4 book found on page 22. So in this one we're talking about percent decrease. Decrease obviously means we're going down in number or value. So let's get into it. So Ken said that he's going to reduce the number of calories that he eats during the day. Ken's trainer asked him to start off small and reduce the number of calories by no more than 7%. Ken estimated and consumed 2,200 calories per day instead of his normal 2,500 calories per day until his next visit with the trainer. Did Ken reduce his calorie intake by no more than 7%? Justify your answer. So we got 7%, we got a starting value or a starting amount of 2,500, and we know that he ended up eating 2,200. Let's get into it. Let's see what we can set up here. We're going to go about this. We're going to do it in two methods. So let's kind of save room for that. There we go. First method will be over here on the left. Second method we'll do over here on the right. And we're going to see how we can come up with an answer two different ways. So the first method is when we find 7% of 2,500 and compare it to the calories that we decreased by. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to use that percent equation that we've done before. There we go. We have quantity, because now we're talking about adding or subtracting a quantity, equals the percent as a decimal, times the original whole. So I threw that word original in there hopefully to make our understanding a little better of what we start with. All right, so to do this, let's see the quantity. The quantity is our unknown amount right now. So, well, slightly unknown. There is a way that right now I could tell what the quantity is, but I'm going to do that after so that I can compare what we find 7% of 2,500 is, and we can see if that actually matches what the quantity he went down by is. All right, so Q equals now percent as a decimal. We have 7%. So 7%, remember, you can make that a fraction first by putting a fraction bar over 100, put the 7 on top, do 7 divided by 100, and you end up with 0.07, which is what we will put in for our percent as a decimal. Multiplied by, now the original whole number is 2,500. Okay, now one more thing I probably should have done before, I should have wrote a little statement saying let Q equal the calories reduced by, because again, they said that he's reducing it by no more than 7%. So our quantity stands for the actual number of calories. Right here's the math with how we're going to find 7% of that. All right, so one more step to do. Q equals, now we just got to do 0.07 times 2,500. You will get 175. So remember, that's the number of calories that we would have reduced his diet by if he followed this no more than 7% guideline. Now, the thing is they actually tell us. They tell us what he went down to. They say he estimated and he consumed 2,200 calories per day. So, once again, let's just kind of clarify this. Right there, we did the actual math of, so 175 is the actual 7% of 2,500 calories. Now, Ken's estimate here is that we know that his original diet was 2,500 calories. He went down to 2,200 calories. So that means that he reduced his actual calorie count by 300. So that is Ken's actual reduction. The overall question's asking, did Ken reduce his calorie intake by no more than 7%? So that means no more, when we found out 7% equals 175. Well, he reduced it by 300, so he went over that 7%. Because if we go over 175, that means that he went over 7%. So we'll say, no, Ken went over 7%. All right, so that's the first method. The second method is another way we could end up with this answer. The second method takes a little different approach. Instead of finding 7% of 2,500, we will find 93% of 2,500. And the reason I did 93% is because I did 100% minus, because that's how much he was supposed to reduce by, which means take away, 7%. And that gives us our 93%. And what will that actually give us? So once we find 93% of 2,500, that will give us the new daily calorie limit, meaning that limit is 7% lower than what he currently has. So to do this is a little quicker. We're going to use this same formula for our percent equations. There we go. Now the quantity we don't know, so I'll put Q, and Q is going to stand for something different now. So we'll say let Q equal the new daily calorie limit. And just so we know, that's 93% of the original ORG. All right, so we have that. Our percent as a decimal. Remember, now we're talking about 93%. I'll sneak this in where I can. So 93%, we'll go up here. 93%, we turn that into a fraction, put it over 100, put the number in front of the percent on top. 93 divided by 100 will give you 0.93. So that is our percent as a decimal. We'll throw that in right there. So there's our percent as a decimal. And we're multiplying by the whole. I should have put the original whole, but we'll save a little bit of writing. So the original whole is 2,500. We'll go ahead, we'll do the math. So Q equals 0.93 times 2,500 gives you, there we go. So Q equals 2,325. Just so we keep everything straight, remember Q equals the new daily calorie limit. So that's what he should be at if he was consuming 93% of his original, which is 7% less than his original. Again, we see how he consumed less than that. He consumed 2,200 calories per day. So he reduced his calories more than he should have. So this is the number of calories he should be consuming, whereas 2,200 is the calories he's actually consuming. So there we go. And again, that leads us to say, oh, he's supposed to be at 2,325. He went down too far to 2,200. So he's consuming less than he actually should be. He went down by too much. Again, back to this, no, Ken went over 7% down. So on to exercise 2. Let's check out exercise 2. It says Skylar is answering the following math problem. The value of an investment decreased by 10%. The original amount of the investment was $75. What is the current value of the investment? So that's the problem she is answering. Let's see how she answered it. says that Skylar said 10% of $75 is $7.50, and since the investment decreased by that amount, you have to subtract $7.50 from $75 to arrive at the final answer of $67.50. Create one algebraic equation that can be used to arrive at that final answer, and we have to solve it to prove that it actually does give us that answer. All right, so in doing this, we're actually going to come up with two of them, since one method might be easier than the other. So let's do equation 1 over here, and we'll do equation 2 over here. So equation one is going to work similar to how we did the first method up here, meaning that we're going to find the 10% amount first, then we'll subtract that amount from 75. So when we set that up, our equation, so we have to have an equation, that means we'll have an equal sign. Our reduced amount is what we're trying to find out. So the reduced amount is, or equals, and that's going to be the original amount minus, because it decreased, it went down, and then in parentheses here, because we have to do a little more work, we're going to put percent amount, and we have to do a little work to find out what that is. So let's go ahead and let's do this. So reduced amount. We don't know what the reduced amount is. Well, eventually we know that it's supposed to equal 67.50, but we'll just check to see if that's what happens at the end. So let's say reduced amount, I'll put the letter R for reduced amount. The original amount is, that's $75. So that's the investment we put in. 75, I'll just write it as 75. We don't have to put that 00. That can stay invisible. Minus. Now the percent amount. I'm not talking about the 10%. That's where we have to do the 10% of $7 and, 10% of $75. So I'll remind you that we can find 10% of this by using our percent equation. So this looks a little different. I put percent amount. That's really the same thing as part, or another word I used was quantity. So if we want to find what 10% of $75 is, we do 10% as a decimal multiplied by the original whole, which is $75. So in this case, that percent amount, I'll highlight that in orange. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take 10%. So remember, 10% equals fraction bar 100, 10 over 100, and once you do that division, you get 0. You can put 10 or you can put 0.1. So I'm just going to put this portion, our percent as a decimal, which is 0.10, multiplied by the original whole, which is that $75. So there we go. And all of that is how we find our percent amount. So let's progress through. R equals 75 is going to stay. 0.10 times 75 gives me 7.5. Finally, we'll do 75 minus 7.5, and we end up with R equals 67.5, which is $67.50. So there we go. We proved how that works out, that we could use this type of equation or this type of thinking to find out what our reduced amount is. Now I want to point out that the reduced amount, because it's a reduction, that's when we use a minus sign there. If it was an increased amount, you could probably guess that we would do a plus sign. But anyway, this is reduced, so we'll leave it as minus. All right, equation number 2, another way we could find the reduced amount is that we could subtract the percents, then find the percent amount. So what does that look like? Well, we're going to have a set of parentheses in the front, and this reduced amount. So this is going to look similar to our orange part, percent, and whole equation up here, where the reduced amount is the part. I know that's kind of small there. And then after the equal sign would be our percent as decimal, and in the back, the whole. So multiplied by the whole. So when we fill this in, let's go ahead and start filling in percent as a decimal. So we have to actually figure that out. Now remember, the whole starts as 100%. But we are taking away, we're decreasing by 10%. So we have that to figure out first. And then the whole, well, the whole is the same as what we've had. The whole will be that $75. So let's keep going. We have R equals, now 10% or 100% minus 10% leaves us with 90%. Let's actually write that up a little higher there. Sorry about that. Because we have 90%. Now that as a fraction is 90 over 100. I'll save you some writing though. And we know that that's 0.9, I'll say 90. So we're going to put our percent as a decimal as 0.90. And we're multiplying that by the whole, which is still $75. Okay, so now all we have to do is do R, which is the reduced amount. And to find that, we have to do 0.90 times 75, which gives us 67.5, which again is equal to the same answer we found, that's $67.50. So, in summary, you could find the 10% amount first, then subtract it from the original, or you could find the remaining percent first, meaning that you subtract the percentages, then just multiply that by the whole amount to find your reduced amount. Two different methods, both equally as fine to use. Choice is up to you.